Well, good morning, all. My name is Sean Winter, Vice President Global Client Success with Movius, and welcome to our weekly Thursday webinar where we talk about a lot of the challenges and opportunities that the current pandemic is giving companies and forcing companies to figure out. I'm joined today by Jorge Ross, Global Director, IBM Public Cloud, joining me from Miami. Jorge, how are you today?
I'm great, Sean. Hanging in there.
Hanging in there. Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I know you have a bunch of little ones around the house, so if one wants to make an appearance, that's always welcome.
Yeah. It's maybe we'll see one of them crawl in here at some point while we're chatting.
Great. Well, we'll for the crowd, we'll be here for about 30 minutes or so. This is casual. We're not going to bombard you with slides. If you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A or the chat function in Zoom, and I'll be monitoring that. I'll try to weave those into the conversation. So no need to wait till the end if you have any questions. If you want to stop us, be as rude as you like. We're here to have a collective and collaborative conversation with everyone. So that being said, I did want to give sort of a brief background on Movius and Multiline. Multiline is our secure and compliant voice and text application that is powered and built on the IBM cloud. It allows people to use really any device, any personal device, to have some secure and compliant conversations. So for those that are typically required to get to their desk phone to be on a recorded line, or historically they've had to carry around multiple phones, which comes with certainly an increased cost in terms of the device and the plan. We provide a very compelling alternative to that. As I stated, it is built on the IBM cloud. So I'll turn to Jorge now. Jorge, if you could give us maybe a little background on yourself, where you are, how you're doing these days, how your job has maybe changed in the past few months, and then we'll get started into the conversation specific to IBM Cloud.
Yeah, so thanks, Sean. So first of all, I really appreciate you guys inviting me to do this. This is a lot of fun, and it's great to have these kinds of discussions and work with great partners like yourselves, right? So my role globally, I'm responsible for our public cloud sales within IBM. So everything public cloud, from our IaaS portfolio, PaaS portfolio, object storage, that's on the public cloud. And working with companies to try to, make sure that we're enabling companies like yourselves and others to be successful in our public cloud. So that's sort of the mission, as you might imagine, over the past couple of months with coronavirus and the acceleration of the digital transformation that we'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes. Obviously, I think there's obviously a part of it it's been very interesting, right? Because there's been a lot of opportunities to actually help out companies in a very meaningful way, as we try to use technology to try to fight the situation and get past it, and try to help people be well and companies serve their clients better. Healthcare institutions looking to leverage technologies and move fast to try to do things to help people stay informed and stay safe. So there's been part of that, and then obviously there's a lot of clients that are reaching out because there's acceleration of the digital transformation has been a bit overwhelming for them. So it's been an interesting time. It's definitely a moment in time that I think we're all going to remember, I think.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And it's funny, we've probably been on this digital transformation journey to cloud for, 10 to 15 years, I guess. And it is interesting. Sometimes it takes these types of events to really accelerate those positions from companies. Obviously, a lot of large companies out there claim to be very cloud friendly. And when you look, beneath the covers, some are more so than others, right? And I think what this pandemic has done has really forced everyone to be way more open-minded to software as a service and cloud in general. So I'd love to start by asking you, given the pandemic, why are companies turning on these types of software as a service applications? What are the benefits for a company now with a globally displaced workforce that public cloud brings them?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's an interesting point, right? Because you know, again, back to the point of, you know, this digital acceleration. I think we're seeing that more. There's I think I saw a statistic. There's over $2 trillion of spend on digital transformation going on globally, right? And of that, over half of that is focused on looking to leverage cloud-based technologies, right? So it's related to cloud, migrating to the cloud. And, you know, that is before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's only going to accelerate. And the reason, you know, cloud is equitable to this digital transformation is because of I would say 3 or 4 different reasons, right? One of the key ones is the scalability of the cloud. So, you know, the ability to scale up and scale down. So right now, right, you think of companies that were planning for a certain level of demand, all of a sudden the demand spikes up. They can spin up servers, you know, and compute capacity to be able to serve that demand in minutes, right? So it allows for that type of quick scale up, scale down. The second thing that I think is really important is the agility that it brings, right? So when you're developing applications, the developing applications in the cloud, what it's actually changed is the time to delivery for applications is a lot faster. So you think about, I mean, there's business applications, of course, but I'm going to point to things that are maybe more in everybody's mind, right? So you think about some of these contact applications that are coming out, right? These things in other situations were months to develop, right? And in a cloud-based world, you've got, you know, cities, countries, companies coming out with contact tracing applications in days because they're able to develop them a lot faster. But there's companies that are reaching out to us, or hospitals that are out to us, cities that are reaching out to us because they need to put up chatbots, right, to answer the overwhelming demand that they're having for questions from their, you know, from patients, clients, people, you know, citizens, and you can do that really quickly. So there's a scale up, scale down from an infrastructure perspective, but there's an overall agility in the ability to develop. And then I think the third benefit is you think about, you know, we're doing this over Zoom, right? You think about some of the challenges that have come up for example, for Zoom in terms of the security. Their ability to be able to get the fixes out to all the users that are using the application because it's a cloud-based application. If you had to, you know, if Zoom was something that you had to download into your PC and run from your PC, their ability to get that out, you would have to essentially get emails out to everybody to download software packages to then patch the thing. To be a longer cycle, you can get patches out and solve these kinds of issues a lot faster with cloud-based technology. So I think a lot of it has to do with speed and scalability.
Yeah, no, and
agility.
that makes sense. It's funny, you know, when I think of the industries that have been most affected from a technology perspective, right? So let's take restaurants and retail and put that on the side. But if you think of, you know, healthcare and financial services are probably the two ones that have been the most affected by this. Yet I would argue that they're not the most progressive industries from a technology perspective. And now they're forced to literally be, to your point about chatbots, like on the front end of everything. And they had to figure that out in a matter of days, which I think is good. It's good for those industries. I mean, it's a good challenge. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's good that they're rising to the challenge. Another story, back when I worked for a financial services company, for about 11 years or so, although it felt like about 30. And I was in IT, and we had to do, you know, when we needed new technology, like it was almost like a year-long process, and not just the waterfall nature of delivery, but, you know, purchasing infrastructure and hardware, getting the requirements down, going through multiple releases, then saying, oh wait, we missed on a requirement or we did something wrong, and having to go back and do it again, and it went on and on forever. So I think your comments about speed and agility are certainly more relevant than ever in the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And people are figuring this stuff out as they go. Like for a healthcare chatbot, you're not going to have the perfect requirements on day one, but that shouldn't stop you from putting it out there and then making it better tomorrow and better tomorrow. And that's certainly a new way of thinking.
Yeah, and another angle of this, right, in terms of the agility is, you know, if you think of a company like Mobius, and you know, the ability to markets are going to open up, right? Because this is, I think, the one thing I think in our lifetime that that we're hit with something that's hitting the whole world at the same time, and people are going to look to tap into technology. So you might get, you know, a call from a client in a country that you might not be operating in, and you don't need to go set up a data center in that country, right? You can, in a lot of these places, with a global footprint that you can leverage from IBM Cloud in this case, you can go and set up shop in some of these countries relatively quickly, because you have the ability, you know, with these cloud-based technologies to set up these footprints around the world. So again, it goes back to the point of agility and being able to comply with some of these things to get footprints.
Yeah, no, that's a really relevant point. We work a lot, I'm sure you do as well, with large companies on their business continuity plans, which traditionally have been, to your point, around like a specific event in a specific place, right? A hurricane or a tornado comes, everyone needs to go home for 3 days and then come back. And this pandemic is something totally different, right? Because it's not bound by time, it's not bound by location. So I think you're right. The speed and agility is paramount. And a lot of companies, I think, when you look at their BCPs, they don't plan for an event like this that has no end date, that covers the entire world. You know, understandably so. But I think that's been a radical change and been somewhat fascinating to watch as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So as I stated earlier, multi-line is used by a lot of the biggest banks in the world, and we're very dependent on security from IBM Cloud. So I'd love to understand a bit more about the protocols that you have in place for, you know, think of private transactions, right? And right now you have so much market volatility that there's a bunch of extra eyeballs on what's going on. What's IBM's view on security on your public cloud?
Yeah, so look, I mean, I think we are, you know, when we talk about our cloud, when I talk to clients about our cloud, we talk about three key components, right? Or three key characteristics that I think we try to underpin our cloud as you know, we believe we are the cloud for enterprise, right? We built our cloud for enterprise companies where, you know, open is really important, right? Having, you know, I think a lot, what we're finding is, in the early days of cloud, you know, everybody thought it was going to be really cheap, and they all got on, and all of a sudden, what they're finding, a lot of companies are finding, is that they're locked in. So they're looking for more open technologies that, you know, that they can play interchangeably with, and they can move around and pick the right tools for the right workload at the right time. So that's one key thing that we talk about. The second thing that we talk about is enterprise grade, because we offer we offer the most deployment models, the most options in deployment models. But the third thing, to your point, to your specific question, that we really emphasize, because of the profile of customer that IBM works with, is security, right? And having the most secure cloud in the market. And that's really important, because we do have, you know, just like Mobius, our clients are, you know, the biggest banks in the world, the biggest telcos in the world, the biggest, you know, retailers in the world are IBM's clients, right? So that's critical. And that is, when you look at, you know, what's happened over the past, you know, 7 or 8 years that we've been talking about cloud, companies have moved 20%, about 20% of their workloads, the enterprises have moved to the cloud. The other 80% is still running on traditional IT. So if you think about it, it's still not that much. For all the talk on cloud, there's still not that much. And the reason for it is because these are more complex workloads, more mission critical workloads that require more security, and people need to be very comfortable putting them on the cloud. So what's our approach? So obviously we have to, what we provide as a cloud provider, we provide the underlying infrastructure, the building blocks, so that, you know, again, so that you guys, for example, can build your application using those building blocks and build in the security that is required by your clients, right? So we've got all the fundamentals around physical security on our data centers, security, you know, technological security around our network and everything around it. We have all those fundamentals, and those are basically industry standards that we have to meet. We can provide, you know, things like our SOC 2 Type 2 report that provides some of the details on how we do those, how we comply with those things. But then we provide specific tools around encryption, security. I know you guys use, for example, we partner with a company called Cloudflare. You guys use that, you know, from a network perspective for internet-facing traffic, we have tools like that. But then one of the most important things is, again, back to the point of encryption. And I think that's one of the things we've brought there's the most secure platform in the world is the mainframe. I think that's recognized as sort of the most secure compute platform in the world. And that's why a lot of the banking, a lot of the highly regulated and most important workloads in the world run on mainframes. And we've brought that security to our cloud with capabilities like keep your own key, but going beyond that, which a lot of providers are providing the bring your own key capability, where you bring your encryption keys to the cloud.
What does that mean exactly?
Not what we're saying is
take a step back and explain. Bring your own key.
That means
non-technical.
That means that if you so when you encrypt something, right? What I could do is I give you the encryption keys, right? So call it in a non-technical way, and I'll keep it because I'm also not a deep technical expert, right? But what you could do is basically, have a capability where I give you encryption and I give you the keys, but it's provided by me. What a lot of companies prefer is to bring their own encryption and bring their own encryption keys to the cloud. Now, the next step beyond that, which is what we've provided, is we're the only provider in the market that does this, is keep your own keys, right? Which means not only do you bring your own encryption, I don't even have access to your encryption keys, so I don't see it. So even if I wanted to, I can't access your data, right? So by definition, I don't want to access your data. I'm just the provider of the infrastructure and the services underneath. But we have this capability called keep your own key, where by definition, you keep your own key, I can't even access it. So with capabilities like that, what we're doing is we're enabling companies like yourselves to go and work with banks, knowing that the underlying infrastructure, the underlying cloud that you have that is secure, and you're at the highest level, right? And that's what we're trying to provide, because we've learned over the years in working with enterprises that that's the type of security that they're looking for, and that's the level of backing that is required to be able to secure their workloads. So that's what we're providing.
No, and that makes sense. I think that's a really compelling differentiator. It's like a public hotel where I'm the only, as a customer, I'm the only person with the key to that room, and not even the housekeeper has a skeleton key unless I let them in.
Exactly.
I think that's super compelling.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about speed earlier, more from the perspective of application development and launch. But what about scale? And I know we sort of touched briefly on the Zoom example. But for instance, Movius, we have a lot of very large customers that require certain capabilities, phone line storage, et cetera, potentially in small countries where, a large bank may have thousands of employees in the US and the UK and France, but 10 in Austria and 15 in Luxembourg and whatnot. How does the IBM's model help us scale to meet those demands? Where in some cases it's a large number of people that need access to a capability overnight. In other cases, it could be 50 or so employees in a fairly remote country.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think again, we touched on it at the beginning, right? But think of it, for example, in extreme cases, right? So we have the weather company that's an IBM owned company. So we acquired the weather company a few years back, and it's an IBM. So when you go in your if you go check the weather in your phone, that application will say it's an IBM company, right? So we actually own them, and they run on IBM cloud. So just think of that example, right? And then we'll go back to the Movius example of scaling up users. But in an extreme situation, there's a hurricane that's coming to, let's say, my part of the world, in Miami. You'll have millions of people, right? All over Florida, all over the country, logging in constantly, and the volume of people, like, it's not the average traffic that you might expect of people just checking the weather. You're going to have people constantly logging on and seeing, every hour on the hour, where is this hurricane and where's the path and where is it going? And it's going to be everybody essentially, when this happens, you have everybody on essentially the East Coast of the United States that's looking at it because of the way these paths go, right? So they need to be able to, within minutes, be able to just all of a sudden be able to respond to that demand and scale up And then once that goes down, they can take it back down and deprovision all those servers. So, you know, in your example, right, for Mobius, all of a sudden you have, you know, some users that pop up in, you know, in a country like Luxembourg or somewhere like, you know, 50 users. You need to be able to meet that demand. And what you don't want to have to do is go and take servers into a data center, put them in a rack,
Right.
you know, load the software, prepare everything. That will take you, that, you know, it'll be weeks, sometimes months before you're able to, you know, especially with you know, when you're talking international expansion, before you're able to actually get these users going, right? So the importance of cloud is it gives you sort of this sense of unlimited capacity, right? Because you can get it on demand, you can ramp up essentially as much as you need to be able to meet that demand, and within minutes you can be serving those clients, right? So, you know, obviously from the trick when you're running a cloud business is being able to manage that, you know, that demand so that you're keeping, you know, enough capacity available for your clients so to meet that when is needed. But that's the benefit, right? It's being able to, you know, the minute you need it, you scale it up. Tomorrow, maybe those users, you know, move on, or you don't need it. You can scale it back down, and it allows you to meet the demand, but also manage your cost. It becomes a variable cost. Instead of having to outlay a capital expense, buy a bunch of servers, buy a bunch of software licenses, et cetera, you can just do it on demand, scale up and scale down.
More
at
of
the
an
time
operating
that you
expense as needed.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know.
Exactly.
I mean, that's speed and availability is so important to us because, as you know, we can turn on our solution in a matter of hours, and it's typically before the pandemic, you know, we would be dealing with a lot more structured conversations around mobile strategy and bring your own device and those types of things. And now it's like, hey, my traders are home now. Like they went home, you know, they were in the office yesterday, and now today they're not. So we need to turn something on immediately. So I think having a partnership like we do with IBM has been tremendously
exactly.
in terms of delivery.
And in your case, exactly, right? So I mean, I know that's something that the financial services industry has been struggling with, right? I mean, I have friends that work in that industry, and you know, for you guys, you know, all those phone calls that were being made from a secure line maybe in the office now are being made from phone calls at home, from mobile phones at home, right? So that's where tools like you know, like your tools are become very important, but of course that scales up the volume that you're having to deal with.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that because we've done a lot of chatting with friends in that industry and former colleagues and whatnot. And, you know, the common answer I get is, oh, well, I have my secure desk phone forward the call to my personal cell phone, and I just do that from home. It would say, oh, that doesn't solve the problem. I understand that gets the call to your phone, but that doesn't do anything else that you need to do. So, yeah, it's a good point. So we have a few minutes left. I've interspersed a few questions from the crowd here, but I wanted to talk to you about, let's say, the new normal, right? Obviously, work has kind of been upended. Some of us, like you and I, are kind of used to working from home and traveling around, and obviously the travel stopped, but we're probably more comfortable with working from home. Others, you know, are used to going to the office every day and having small talk and walking around and seeing what's going on and the hallway conversations and whatnot. So what's your take on how this is going to look 6 months from now? Both from your specific personal perspective, but also I think from IBM's perspective. What's work going to look like in a few months? Yeah,
look, I think you know, back to where we started on the digital acceleration, right? I think the interesting thing about all this is I don't think this is necessarily completely changing the direction we're going. I think it's just accelerating. And one of the challenges when you talk about technology, one of the biggest challenges that you talk about, you know, this is like back to the old days, right? You know, the change management, right? When you deploy a new CRM in your company, when you deploy a new software package in your company, is, you know, the change management, the adoption, the willingness of the users to adopt that technology is one of the biggest challenges, right? It's why a lot of these projects fail.
That's what that's from.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's one of the reasons why a lot of these projects fail is the willingness of people to accept that technology and adapt to it. It might be the best technology in the world, but if people don't accept it and they're comfortable with the old technology that they were using, it won't work. So I think what I think this is actually doing is, you know, we were heading down this path of the digital transformation, and where we were doing things more digitally, you know, buying groceries online. You know, I think, you know, I had the privilege of living, or the fortune, I guess, depending on how you look at it, of living in Europe for 6 years. When we were living in Europe back, and this was about 10 years ago, you know, people were already buying groceries online and getting them delivered to their door over there. And we just weren't comfortable with it, because that's not how we do things, I guess, at least not, you know, you know, I'm from Miami. In Miami, that's not how we do things. People go to the grocery store, and you still go there, and you look at your bananas, and you look at your tomatoes. You know, over there, they were comfortable having somebody pick their bananas and tomatoes for them and bring them. Of course, some people like to go to the market, et cetera, but there's a lot more of that going on. Now, I see the number of people that are, you know, using tools to shop online and get the groceries delivered to their door. So the acceptance of that is accelerated, right? So same thing, I think, when I evaluate my own workday, right, I was, you know, I was traveling, you know, 75, 80% of the time on a plane, going places, right? And when you start to question, you know, my wife asked me this day, she's like, so you're doing all your work, you seem to be doing the same work that you were doing before, but you're doing it, you know, remotely. So do you really need to travel that much, right? And I think that's going to be the question that we're all going to be asking ourselves when we come back is, I mean, but I think it's getting comfortable with these kinds of tools to, instead of going and having a face-to-face meeting, hey, maybe we could do it over video, right? And maybe not have to get on a plane for 22 hours to go to, you know, whatever part of the country, of the world to see you. Maybe we can meet over video, and it's good enough, right? And there's still going to be, I hope that personally, because I am Latin, and I human interaction is very important to Latin people, and I think in general to human beings, I think human interaction is important, and I hope we don't lose, you know, handshakes. I hope we don't lose hugs. I hope we don't lose any of those things. I hope that stays around. So I do hope that there's still a place, and we continue, and I do think we will continue to interact, but I think we'll reevaluate, you know, the prioritization of how much we actually, you know, what things can we get done remotely, digitally, now that we're more comfortable with these kinds of, and I think that's the biggest change that I see, Sean, is I think people are going to get a lot more comfortable with a lot of the tools that we were already heading down the path of using, and it's just going to create an acceleration. It's going to give that a jolt. And I think obviously the pandemic is a horrible thing, but when you look at it from the perspective of the digital acceleration, I actually think a lot of these things might actually be for the better, and might bring people like me, right, quality of life, and that I get to spend more time with my family and see my kids more often, right, and things like that. So, you know, call me an optimist, but I do think that there's a lot of good that might actually come out of, we look at the silver lining from adopting some of these digital technologies and helping improve our life once we get past the hump.
I think that's well stated, very wise opinion, and I can't disagree with anything you said. Well, Jorge, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I know you're a super busy guy, and I think, let me see if I have another slide here that does have my email for anyone on the call. If you did have a question and either you weren't comfortable asking, or maybe you have two kids hanging off you, so you're on mute, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to either answer that or pass it on to Jorge and make sure that we get the right answer. And other than that, I think it is 11:30 Eastern, so we'll let everyone get back to work. Thank you so much for joining. Jorge, thank you for joining. Really appreciate your partnership and your time. I think this was a great conversation, and we'll look at reviewing, maybe doing this again in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for your partnership.
You got it.